seems to me that Manuel Valls, if one does not feel particularly charitable in one's assessment of him, might accuse him of a Trumpisation of the spirit of politics in France. Valls, notably in the context of jihadist terrorism, declared, much to the dismay of social scientists and thinkers everywhere, that to wish to understand the phenomenon was already to excuse it. I think that mentality has unfortunately invaded a great deal of the political discourse, both on the left and the right. To speak to what François Hollande and his government might do, I think it's worth pointing out that since Charlie Hebdo, and in particular since the November attacks and the beginning of the state of emergency, François Hollande's government has essentially taken the suggestions, what used to be the suggestions of the right and far-right opposition, and made them his own policies. This leaves him today with essentially nowhere to go. It also, however, leaves the right and far right with almost nowhere to go. In terms of the proposals that have been made to date in the wake of the Nice attack and in the wake of the attack at the church in Saint-Étienne-du-Rouvray, we see that the right and far right, in fact, have almost nothing to propose that is not already being proposed by the left or is not already being implemented by the left. It seems to me, taking a step back and taking perhaps a more historical view, it's worth pointing out that this is a problem in France to a degree that it is not in other European nations.
And why is that the case?
If I knew, I would certainly be communicating that to the relevant people. I certainly have theories, but what dismays me about the tone of public discourse is that there is very little attempt to reckon with that reality. That is to say, there is very little attempt, it seems, to interrogate the question, why in France is this problem incubating at such a high level? Why is France producing young people who are susceptible to this sort of ideology? And why are the attacks happening in France? Until the country reckons with that, I don't think there's a way to solve what is essentially a generational problem.
Bruno, would you have anything to say to what Scott just said, the fact that the political elite here in this country has failed to deal with that question? Is why is it that France has become the target of these terrorist attacks, and more importantly, that they're all homegrown terrorists?
So as it was said just before, it's an extremely complex issue. Actually, you have no one unique and simple answer. Obviously, France is a relevant target for terrorist attacks, not only because this is France, which is, in other words, one of the biggest countries of the EU, which is one of the dominant EU countries in the European summit. It's also because France has already is involved, actually deeply involved, in the military actions on the field, which is in Syria. We have seen recently that France soldiers, they were also in Libya, actually, and also because France has, we've got since many years that political issue, which is about integration of the different communities. We have this big topic, and the terrorists, they know perfectly French politics, and they know that if you go on to that topics and you put the finger on a thing which is not easy for France, and obviously their secret wish is to activate divisions between the different religions, to try to persuade French Muslims that they are not so welcome in France. So it is among the many reasons that France is a target. I have another point I would like to come back on, which is that obviously, as it was said just before, we cannot see what François Hollande can do. Exactly as it was said, François Hollande has just taken the policies of the right, in particular if they think about the nationality issues, but we have not to forget two political games. One game is obviously the left and the right game, which is that coming soon we have the presidential election, and you can obviously not ignore that the presidential election is coming soon, not only in what Nicolas Sarkozy is saying, but also the game that the terrorists are playing. They are going to play probably with a calendar, the political calendar. And then you have the second game, which is within the right, the combat between François Hollande and Alain Juppé. You have seen that Alain Juppé was quite discreet over the recent days, when immediately Nicolas Sarkozy went on the front, showing that he was the leader of the opposition. So obviously all of that contributes to the climate that we have.